So
I think that martial arts as a whole is a puzzle, and each style and each system is a piece of that puzzle.
Absolutely.
I think that everybody has a piece, and when you have your ego, you're not sharing your piece of the puzzle.
Let's talk about ego.
Okay.
Right? There's no agenda here. It's really just ego is a subject that finds its way into probably every conversation on martial arts.
Certainly.
Not always using that exact word, but we all know what ego can come from and can lead to. And, Michael, Samuel, we just recorded our episodes. Ego, pride came up in both of those episodes. Des, you and I have had several conversations about ego. Jen, you were there. How long were we standing in the parking lot last night after dinner?
An hour.
with the five of us chatting about essentially ego. And, CJ, I don't know that our conversations have ever directly focused on it, but everything that I've heard us talking about post free training day has really been a conversation about ego. So I'll let whomever wants to start, but let's start with, is ego always bad?
Go ahead.
I would say maybe ego it's bad in how it's expressed towards others. I think having even like a high self-confidence or value of yourself is okay, because we all need to feel that as individuals we are important in our own lives. When you're utilizing your ego to create, like we've discussed in the past, a barrier or like a hierarchy to elevate myself above someone else, that becomes more problematic, because now we're creating separation, we're creating distance, we're not living a part of the martial arts way, which is to be inclusive and to create these settings that makes us all unite together. And now we're just saying like, I am superior, I am better, and that creates more problems than it's worth in that space.
Yeah, I think I'll just add on to that. I think that ego doesn't necessarily have to be bad. It's when you try to make yourself supreme over somebody else and you try to push your agenda on it. And a lot of times, as bad as it sounds, the higher ranking black belt you are, it seems that those individuals have the highest amount of ego a lot of times. And it's just that old mentality of some schools, for example, or some organizations, if I'm a 9th, 8th, 9th, 10th degree black belt, don't talk to me if you're a first degree black belt.
Right.
It's one of those where they're not welcoming. So that ego comes across that they can do no wrong and that they're the grand poobah of the world or whatever it may be. And that's where I think the ego comes into a problem. If it's that confidence thing, or the I want to share kind of thing, and let me show you, or let me help you understand what I know, then I think that is okay. But it's that when it tries to make you supreme over somebody else, that I think that's when the problem comes in.
CJ, you brought up something, and Des, unless there's a part of your life that I've forgotten, you did not serve in the military, right?
I did not.
So 4 out of 5 of you were involved in the military in some capacity. And so when you talk about one person's a 10th Dan, one's a first, we can look at it from the perspective of ego. If we look at it through a military lens, we could also look at it as there's a necessary amount of stratification, because if the whatever commander top has every single person at the bottom of the pyramid coming to them, they get nothing done, right? There's something to, would we call it chain of command in that context, and its relevance?
Yeah, I can see that. Because I was in the military during the Iraq-Afghanistan time frame and spent time over there and stuff like that. So the best lieutenants and the best officers I ever served under were the ones that were willing to listen to those under them. And were willing to say, hey, this person has experience here, no matter what their rank is. This person has experience here, or this person has knowledge in this situation here. let me listen to them and learn from them. Even like the colonels that I worked with and the sergeant majors that I worked with and stuff like that, the ones that listened were the best ones that everyone respected. The ones that didn't listen and the ones that, I'm a lieutenant, you're a sergeant or whatever, no one respected those people. They did what they were supposed to when it came to like your customs and courtesies, because that's part of the military. But respecting the man or respecting the woman it didn't exist, because it was my way or the highway kind of thing, and they didn't listen to reason. So I think in the martial arts, that's kind of the way in some situations that portrays and comes across as well. I don't know if you guys feel different, but
Building on what CJ said is that with the military, especially with that hierarchy, and using that as an example, you're trained because you're brought up that with military courtesies, you have to respect the rank. That has nothing to do with whether or not you respect the person. And the difference in the two is that because you respect rank, you have to listen to what they say because they hold a higher rank, because that's part of it. All right. But give it a chance, okay, in all honesty, okay, if it comes down to whether I follow them, all right, or there's a cliff there and they might actually fall off that cliff, all right, that goes a long way, because I have to respect the rank, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'll follow them. All right, or that I, am going to put the full effort into it. I'm going to do only what's necessary to keep them off me. But when you respect that person and respect the man or the woman in that case that's leading, there's nothing in the world you won't do. We've talked about it before. Is with the military, you'll cross through the gates of hell with them. All right, and never once question any part of it, because that they're there with you. All right, they bring a set of their leadership by example, all right, and they have the respect as well as the openness to listen and not be just so stuck on themselves that it's like, well, it's my way or the highway. Well, in that case, it's going to be the highway, and you're going to be traveling by yourself.
So what I'm hearing is maybe a flexible chain of command or chain of command as a guideline, a default, but when it's relevant, I think I heard you say, CJ, if that person that is subordinate has experience that is relevant, and maybe that experience exceeds that of the superior, why wouldn't you default to it?
yeah, and I'll give you an example of my experiences. I came back from the initial invasion into Iraq in 2003, 2004, because we got extended while I was there. But we came back and we got a new platoon leader, a new lieutenant, and that lieutenant that we had sat us all down, and he said, anybody that just got back, you now know more than me in the world of the military. I know what the book says, but you guys know what real life says. So I'm going to default to my platoon sergeant and to you guys that have been there to help me understand what we're going to go into. Where the other platoon sergeant was not like that. From a different platoon, I had buddies in that platoon, and they were like, dude, this guy just does not listen to us. We're trying to tell him that's not it's not how it works. It's not what we do. It didn't matter. So is it a relevant experience? And is that person, or anybody in the martial arts for that matter, or military, but in the martial arts, since we're talking about that, is the instructor or the person that's senior to them willing to listen to them and willing to grow as a martial artist? I think too many people, and a lot of times, they just get stuck in their ways and don't ever want to grow. Where I think one of the good things about like Free Training Day Northwest and stuff like that is there's so many different systems and styles, and even people from the same styles, they still teach differently, and people are willing to just open their minds up and learn from each other.
Well, different. I have the experience with that with a second lieutenant myself, but in the martial art world, we have leaders that willing to. In my program, in my karate class program, is I teach students to become an instructor. Okay, how can I build them? How can I lead them? So what I'm looking at, is he learning? Is he following the way I teach him? Is he setting an example? Where is his heart? Is he working with the student that it's the worst, and he's over there mowing him and helping him, then I spot. I look, I observe. Being an instructor, you observing, you creating leaders. But you looking at where the leadership is. And then I have yellow belt, have a beginner coming in, and my yellow belt, he just excited. He's like, why don't you go hold a shield and help that young man, show him how to kick. You know how you building them up, right? What are we building? We building leadership. In the military, what we building? We building leadership.
Yeah.
If a leadership that willing to listen to other, you get the job done well. I had a second lieutenant that is his way. And his way got what? 2, 3 guys hurt. Why? Because he didn't refuse. He refused to listen from his unit. He have an opportunity. You got a second lieutenant coming in and listen to the experienced guy. The experienced guy, the one that keep you safe.
Yeah.
The experienced guy, student that learning, he learned, he's fresh, he excited, and then he's going to get to teach a white belt. It build him. It make him great.
This is an important thing, and Jen, I want you to respond to this because you're kind of unconventionally qualified to speak to what I'm going to say. Samuel, you're talking about making everyone responsible for the education of everyone else in the school. They are given the responsibility and the privilege of assisting, even if it's in a small way, versus the way a lot of I think if we look at it this way, we could see a lot of the more egotistical martial arts schools where we say, okay, until you are XYZ rank, you cannot do ABC, right? You cannot teach until this. And so what does that mean? That means people are younger in rank and they're waiting for their opportunity. And once they get that opportunity, they're going to hold on to it because it's been denied to them, right? You know, we've all worked with kids and had kids, and we know what happens to kids, right? If they don't have the opportunity, the moment they have it, you can't have candy. You can have candy today. What are they going to do? They're going to eat until they're sick, right? And so, Jen, let's acknowledge it, right? You've been training a long time. You don't have a black belt, and yet you've still had plenty of time teaching in your own school. Oh no!
You are welcome.
I find it hard, especially being the lowest rank here. It's really hard to approach senior instructors with my rank. It's very intimidating. I have, put myself out there and have been talking to black belts, and I will be having a conversation, whether it's free training day or something that's going on with the dojo, and another black belt will come over and cut me off and stand in front of me and dismiss me. So I deal with ego a lot. I know the tournament rules almost better than anybody, and when I say, hey, this is what's supposed to happen, nope. And so I deal with the ego a lot. I have a lot of experience. I have a lot of knowledge. I can't do everything, but I know the knowledge behind everything. And so I understand that there is the ranking system. It is there for a purpose, but there's a difference between confident and ego. The reason why
that's an important distinction, and maybe I just saw. I think all of you nod along with that. So maybe
I think it's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to put it.
Can you speak to that? What is the difference between confidence and ego, as you see it?
Everybody here shows a level of confidence, but they're approachable. Everybody here, I could say something to, and it's being heard. Everybody here respects me regardless of my rank. But honestly, I don't wear my uniform places because I get more respect of being a outsider of martial arts than I do as the rank that I am, even with my experience. A lot of black belts don't have the experience that I do, but they're better than me.
Quote, better.
Yeah, better than me.
Yeah.
And I think to that, there's a cross section of ego and lack of humility. And when you are confident in your abilities, you're not so insecure that you cannot receive information from any source. And you're okay with just learning because learning helps improve you. and there's nothing that anyone could say that's going to take away from what you already know. So you're okay with what's going on here, and you don't need to feel the need to belittle someone or ignore them or push them aside, because everybody has something valuable. As martial artists, we're called to serve our community.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we forget that. To me, the higher the rank, the greater the call, because now you're going to not only serve just your Q belts, so your beginners, you're serving the higher ranks, and your perspective is now going to affect a greater amount of people. And you're like Samuel's doing, he's creating leaders. We're creating leaders at every opportunity, and you want them to have enough humility and confidence to help bring in the next generation and help inform them as we go. So it becomes a unique situation to be in as you're growing in your rank. I don't know why someone would climb higher and look down their nose at the lower, but that seems to happen in certain spaces, unfortunately.
The whole thing that the ones with the ego, they've forgotten certain things. They forgot why they started martial arts. They've forgotten the whole thing of most people start martial arts. A couple reasons. There's always I want my child or I want myself more disciplined. But the biggest thing is, all right, I need a better sense of self-esteem. I need to build confidence. And so that starts off, we start building that self-esteem. We become confident in what we do, right? But then at some point in time, they forget that the whole foundation of that, right, is first and foremost built on humility. And that being humble means that you're capable of all kinds of incredible things, but that doesn't mean that, that you're forcing it or that you're now closed yourself off to everything else. It doesn't talk about that service. Part of that humility is also that understanding that you are there to serve. That is part of that. I'm confident in what I do. I'm capable of all these things, all right. But I'm open to giving that back to the populace, to the people, to my students. It's not simply like I'm closing that off and none of the rest of you matter. Taking it from the martial arts, like I said, a lot of them forget that. Taking it from one other side, my side of it, in addition to that, is looking at it from the native side. The native side, okay, some of the greatest warriors ever walked the face of the earth. But the bottom line is that you were raised, all right, and even like today, okay, I'm a ceremonial dancer. It's called a sun dancer, all right. We are held at this huge high esteem by the people because of what we're willing to do. But from our side, we're supposed to be humble. It's not supposed to matter because our only purpose in life is to serve the people, is to take care of the people, all right? No matter how they see us, it's our job to serve them at all points in time so that the others and the children, the ones that are going to carry on these next generations, these next levels of martial arts, are learning the right way and they learn to the maximum capability, all right? And hopefully learn to stay humble during that process and not hold on to that ego where, because the thing with ego eventually, okay, is if they're not open to expanding it, that mentality or that they hold on to that so tightly that they're doing eventually dies out. So if they wanted to expand and they want to continue, they have to share and they have to be open to expanding, expressing it, and not simply just closed off to like, oh, I'm the end all, right? Because they will be the end all.
To speak on what Jen's point, like you've got, like you said, more knowledge on. You've taken more leadership teaching classes for martial arts related than I have, like because I know your background, but than I have. And we've talked about that stuff and whatnot. And I remember when you first were going to events, I was like, "Wear your uniform, wear your belt," and then we had a conversation about it. Of, well, if I do that, no one listens.
Yeah.
And the thing is like. I've seen you interact with people in uniform and get ignored. I've seen you out of uniform and not get ignored as much, like you said. But even certain people that have those egos, they'll ignore us because they just don't care what anybody else has to say. And not everybody. There's some people that'll listen to us more so than they would listen to you no matter what. But there's a lot of those people that still won't even listen to us when we're trying to say something. And it's hard, especially it's hard for me to like watch it with you because I know you outside of karate. I know you, or the martial arts, I know you inside of the martial arts, stuff like that. But I think that that's where that ego part really hurts the martial arts in general, is because, you ran a school that had 14, 16 people at one time
Mhm.
in a community center. And I think you had 20, maybe
I-
25 or something like that. I was going to say, I'm shortchanging you a little bit, but like, and you had parents that respected you, and you had students, and those students would go to places and watch that and get deterred. And it would deter them from wanting to continue in the martial arts because they're like, I don't want to be like that person.
Yep.
And that's a harmful thing in general. And then, you try, as instructors, we try to show our students that there's another side to things. But sometimes that bad taste leaves that in people's mouth, and it's so hard to get rid of it. And I think it's difficult.
It's
Creating bad habit is one of the bad roots. So the characters of developing young student is inspire, encourage, and the key word that I always use is called shape. Shape the student how you want it. Spiritual, heart, um, uh, personality, and experience. Those are you're shaping that person. So as us student teachers, when we share our student, we build them, we develop it, and then we shape them. And then when we give them a little bit ingredient and power of authority, let's see how far they go with it, and see are they mature enough to teach themselves about. Am I go? Oh, I'm better than you. Let me show you. No, I want to see how you teach it, and that's we develop. And you got a green belt and go, oh, working with the yellow belt, and that's why I develop it, and I'm starting to see how they mature and grow, and they change the different, and it's about time they reach to their brown belt and level. You become a black belt level. Okay, let's see where your level at. Are you humble enough to lead the whole group with willing to help the lowest one? Oh, let's fix this, fix that. See, we have student that, oh, I'm better fighter than you. You have student that is better fighter. You have student that is better at kata, right? We have different character. So shaping them up is the most important responsibility as an instructor. We shape and we mold them, and develop how you develop characters. And it's the same thing with church. We talk a little bit with church. You want a church to be like this, or you want a church joyful and happy and be glad to be there. And a lot of pastors, they walk into church and they feel like, oh, I got to follow the traditional, or how you want to lead them. You want to lead them exciting, or you want to lead them a boarding church or a boarding class. Same thing in karate. Same thing.
the sad thing is that people don't come up to me and ask me about my experience or how long I've been doing something. They look at my belt.
Yeah. And
So
I
it's
see that.
so it's really hard for me because the transition between different schools and stuff like that. It's really hard for me to be like, here's my experience, because I've even had under black belts try to tell me who've had less experience, but because of my belt rank, this is where I fall. I didn't go out there and tell other people, oh, I have a school, I have this many students, I have this. What I did do is when a parent said, hey, do you know of anybody who teaches karate or anything like that? That's when Jen says, hey, I have a school. It's free, except for I charge insurance because I got to protect myself. But I didn't go out into the world and be like, I have a school. This is where I'm at in my life. I never did that. My experience is my belt. Your guys' experience is your belts. And it's unfortunate. It really is. But when you guys show your confidence, I mean, that's how I've met everybody here. It's because of your confidence, not because of your ego.
You show confidence. You stepping out. You the confidence. You the strength. You the ability. You got more confidence than me. Because
I
you're
don't-
out there, you don't look at the title.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
So-
When somebody,
No, I get what you're saying though, because you were almost to your black belt at another school, and then you switched schools, and you worked your way up to almost a black belt at that school, and then you had injuries and back surgeries and battery packs and stuff like that. But so I get what you're saying. Like when we all walk in a room in uniform, people will gravitate to asking us things more than they'd ask you.
Right.
But you have a lot of experience that none of us have.
Right.
And you have different experiences than we don't have. But you're right. I've seen it, so it's different for me compared to some others, but I understand that.
I'm going to say something I don't think I've ever said on the show, because my experience, Jen, is a lot closer to yours than you may realize. When whistlekick started, I spent a lot of time, how do I get in front of people? How do I share what we're trying to do? How do I build these relationships? Because one of my professional philosophies is it's all networking. It's all relationships, right? No matter what it is we're trying to do, it all stems from relationships. And so I was out and about attending events and then saying, hey, can I share some of my knowledge with you folks next year, right? And inevitably, one of two things would happen. They would look at my belt, which had no stripes on it, and dismiss, or they'd ask me to send in a bio, which had no indication of stripes because I was a first degree for 20 years. And now, in part, because I don't put stripes on my belt, but because they could be there, right? I am treated differently by some circles, but it's also why at whistlekick events, why at free training day, there is no rank requirement. There is no, you have to be a black belt to present. And that's important to me because if you have something to share, whether it's, Samuel, like you're saying, a yellow belt, my Taekwondo instructor would have people sometimes literally on their second day say, okay, so I got like 19 groups of people going. I don't have enough assistants. Remember that stuff I taught you last week? Help that first day person through some of it. Are they going to teach it perfectly? No. Are they going to get them further down the path? Yes.
So one of the things that, we've talked about, humility and confidence and ego and so forth. One of the things I see that's different between confidence and ego, honestly, is that when it goes to ego, right, there's a fear factor that gets involved with it now. And that fear is that I might be proven wrong, that I may not know exactly what I'm talking about, or it may be something better. And so I'm going to either lose those students or I'm going to seem like I am not as knowledgeable as I would like to be. Confidence itself, right? There's not those fears. And if there is those fears, we go to the side of courage that says we move through, even though we might be afraid of things. But that's where that humility kicks in and says, all right, I have this fear. All right, I have the courage to make it through it. And I'm going to address that fear and fix it by bringing in more things that are going to, in turn, make me more confident so that fear no longer exists. With ego, the other thing I see is that I'm not willing to do that. I have this fear, and therefore, I'm not going to let anybody else possibly change that or make me look bad or take away anything because I'm going to close it off to the point that, all right, that they can't get to that. And that's one of the major things I see between the difference between confidence and those people that have that humility and can open themselves up. They don't have that same fear of being wrong or learning something different or saying, hey, somebody might know more than me and maybe I need to spend the time to learn.
And I think a lot of it comes down to that white belt mindset. Like I just got back from Okinawa a couple months ago, and there was a couple of dojos in there that we were white belts in the entire time. And every single dojo I went into, I tried to put my white belt on first, and a couple of instructors knew me, so they told me to go change. But the ones that we were able to keep our white belts on to is because we were there to learn. There was no like, oh, I've already learned this, so I'm this. But no, we're there to learn. So it's that white belt. And a lot of instructors, no matter, at least I've never heard an instructor not say this, is, oh yeah, keep that white belt mindset. but it's how they act that's a lot different too. And it's one of those: are you doing what you're saying or saying what you do?
Mhm.
And I think that's where that a lot of that fine line comes into as well. Like, your whistlekick belt that has your white on one side and black on the other it's that mindset of, if I flip this belt over, I'm just a white belt, and I'm here to learn. I'm here to share. I'm here to like train people to be leaders. I'm training people that we're all just one big family, and we're all like, we joke around a lot because we've known each other a long time. Like, our personalities are just crazy, but it's one of those things where it's, how can we just all get along, and why does one person have to have status over another?
I mean, I know most of you guys from when I moved over here, and I made sure that I did not want to be judged on belt. So that's why I came to dojos regular clothes.
First time you met Jeremy, you're wearing MC Hammer pants.
Right.
You still got that?
Of course I do.
I love that, man. They don't make them anymore.
And, because I recognize, even when I go to all schools, I usually check a day class or an evening class because I like to see different teaching styles. And I want you to treat me as a person and not suddenly change because you see a rank. I don't even wear the belts I'm supposed to wear. I just wear a solid black. And because I just want it to be a very simple process. You treat me as an individual. We'll get to know each other as we train. And as some people meet each other in tournaments, I go to dojos door to door. Hi, can I train with you? Is it okay if I do this? I try to be as respectful as possible because it's not my house. I'm not going to wear, a black belt that I earned over here if I didn't earn it in your system. Like, that's kind of how I feel. I want to give everybody the utmost respect and comfortability so that we can build meaningful connections. And some of that other stuff gets in the way. So you try to avoid all of that and just try to keep it simple.
So if you already have a black belt, you have to go down to black belt so that you feel like an individual. And for me, I have to wear street clothes.
I've interacted with many higher ranks that do the same thing that you've experienced, where I talk to them with something and they look down. And then they go, "Oh, you're still talking." So I understand where you're coming from.
It's hard because the first
Just so you know,
When-
I'm short.
when I was helping
So you
CJ
don't look up.
when I was helping CJ at tournaments, and he would send me to a ring to go talk to an instructor, go talk to this person, go talk to this person, and I'd come back and they're not talking to me. I tried to tell them. I try to do this, I try to do that. And then when I started helping out with Free Training Day last year, I had to go up to people because I've never had conversations with anybody before. At a tournament or anything like that, the only person I really had a conversation with was CJ.
Yeah.
Nobody really communicated. And I've tried to talk to people and I tried to do things and I couldn't do anything. So then last year, street clothes.
Yeah.
You know how many people I talked to?
Everyone.
I talked to everybody.
Your situation is almost like my son's when it comes to like his growing up with martial arts, because when he first started going to tournament, he wasn't Caden. Right, he was, that's CJ's kid, and then it was, that's Caden, CJ's kid, and then that's Caden. He's one of CJ's students, and then it was, it's Caden, CJ's kid, and now it's Caden, and you not being a black belt, quotes if you can't see me, is like that process, because I remember last year when you were trying to do it, you were like, can I just tell them I'm your student, that way they'll listen. And I was like, yeah, you are my student, but go ahead.
It was hard because I didn't want to name drop.
Right.
I wanted them to.
They wanted you to acknowledge you.
Right.
And I get it. And you're like, can I just tell them that I'm your student? That way they'll actually listen to me. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I said, like, I've seen it firsthand with you, you go, because we've talked about it.
Yeah.
And then this year when you were like, I'm going to go talk to that person. What's his name? Okay, it's this person's name. I'll go talk to him. No, I got this. And so, like, you would do it. But then you're right. Some people wouldn't even listen to you.
No.
Still. And
I think
it's just
last
hard.
year you had to talk to people for me,
mm-hmm.
because even though I approached them and asked them, I got zero response. So then you did it, and then I was getting responses.
Is this at the tournament?
This
Everywhere.
was at a couple. I
Everywhere.
went last year.
It's
I
a
worked
West Coast thing.
last year. I worked almost every tournament, marketing Free Training Day, and I went to every tournament. I drove. I paid all the entrance fees. I did everything to present or to represent
Yeah.
free training day, and nobody would talk to me.
That's so crazy.
It was hard, and it beats you down.
Of course.
It does.
There's a commonality that's coming up, and I want to watch the time, and so we'll start to wind here. But I think if I take everything that you've said and I kind of put it together, here's what I think I'm hearing. Ego is a barrier that comes from fear that people use and they put it in front of them. And in the same way that someone with a large ego will look at rank progression as an opportunity because now they are not responsible for having to serve as many others, all of you, because they are no longer expected to continue learning, right? All of you would look at that and say, I'm missing out. I want to continue learning. I don't care what my rank is. Don't deprive me of this opportunity, right? So it comes back to, and what's the word in Japanese? Is it shushin?
Yeah, Soshin.
Soshin?
Soshin.
Beginner's mind? Isn't that roughly what it translates
Or
as?
Mushin, sorry.
Mushin, okay. So once again, it comes back to love of training. If you want to train, if you want to develop and continue to learn more, it's the antidote to ego versus I don't have to train anymore. I don't have to learn. I know as much as I need to becomes a barrier.
Yeah. Yes.
Respond.
I think that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Like you nailed it. Like I think it's when people stop realizing there's more to learn. And that's where I think like people get caught up in styles. Like all of us do different styles except for Jen. But Jen, you do a different style because you do a blend. But all of us for the most part do different styles except for Jen's with me, trains with me.
She does it her own way.
But she does it her own way. I can't take that away from her. But we all are willing to learn from each other. Like Des comes over to my dojo almost once a week, and we cross train together. And on Saturdays we'll meet up and go through things and stuff like that. And I've been to everybody's dojo here, so. But like, and I think that's it. Is when people stop thinking that there's more to learn, and they get style specific, and they so high rank in their style that they know all the curriculum. That I think that's where that mind block comes in, that ego comes in, where if you have that mind, there's always more to learn. There's always something. And it's just like what you talked about yesterday for free training day when we were having our instructors meeting is everyone's going to teach the basic part of it, but you may teach it a different way than someone's been taught before. And I mean, like I taught the first class of the day or one of the two for the first class of the day. And I taught one punch, one kick, and one stance, I think. Or a block. I didn't even teach a kick. Well, I did teach a kick, but a block, a kick, a strike, and a stance. And it was like super easy. But then everyone was like, not everyone, but a couple of people were like, I never thought about doing it that way before, or why we do it that way.
That's where I use the word simple versus easy. They're not the same. What I just heard you say is it was simple, but not necessarily easy because there's a lot of depth and complexity and nuance in that.
Right. And I think that's where like we can all learn from each other, and that mindset's got to keep going. And that's where I think you lose that ego.
Yeah.
So
I think that martial arts as a whole is a puzzle, and each style and each system is a piece of that puzzle.
Absolutely.
I don't think that.
Can you make that so we can glue it and put it in a frame? Puzzle for that?
I think that everybody has a piece, and when you have your ego, you're not sharing your piece of the puzzle. I think that you're allowing there to be a block. So you're like holding on to this knowledge, and you're like, ha, I have this and you don't.
Right.
And you don't have it because you're not at my level. Yeah. But how do I get to your level? Well, you can't. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's hard because I like to talk to people and I get information. CJ, he limited me to 20 questions a day.
It was 25.
He limited me because no matter what school you go to, you can spend years and years out of school and they can teach you all of this stuff, but that's still not a piece of that puzzle.
Yeah.
And so if I need help with something, if I have a student that isn't quite grasping something, I'm like, hey, I've been teaching this kid this for months now. And you come in and you're like, here's my piece of the puzzle. Have them chamber higher, have them turn their hip wider, have them. I'm like, thanks for your piece.
Yeah.
But we can't do that if the ego's in the way.
Yeah.
We can't put that puzzle together.
I 100% agree. I always feel like ego is the death of growth. Because
Ooh, say that again.
ego is the death of growth.
Exactly.
There are some systems, and oh God, I hope this doesn't offend too anybody. But
Do you really hope that?
Everybody-
I think we all know you well
everybody
enough to know that
right
I don't
now.
think you actually mind if it offends people.
if you hear this and you know it's me, just expect that you understand. But in many systems, 10th is the highest. You've mastered the system. You've done all you can in the curriculum. I personally believe I will never achieve 10th degree status because I feel like there's always something to learn. You can put it on my grave when I'm done, because at that point I'm pretty sure I can't learn anymore. At this point I'm dead. If you want to say then at that point I've done what you feel like would be considered mastery at that level, feel free to put that certificate in a flame-proof seal and leave it on top.
Why's it
of
gotta
my
be
grave.
flame-proof?
Because
Where are you
people
going?
could- because there's a lot of houses that get burned down. A lot of
There is a
certificate thieves.
there is an currently
We
at
talked about that
large
last time. Yeah.
serial arsonist that only hunts martial artists and their certificates, and I don't want to be caught in that.
Right.
But
You better have one in a bulletproof safe too.
right, because you never know these days. But
Is he buried in Tacoma?
he seems to be global at this point. But you want to make sure that nothing impedes you as a constant evolution as martial artists. We continually grow, we continually learn, we share experiences, we gain perspectives, and each achievement usually is just an elevation of said perspective. You spend time at those ranks to gain maturity and wisdom. When you have this ego, it nullifies any potential for that.
Yeah.
And then you are now putting yourself in a box that you can't get yourself out of.
That's you put yourself in a box, exactly, because you can see many system they reach to that red belt, but once that red belt already, guess what they reaching next? They go back to the white belt. They go back to the basic, and that's why they say knowledge. We have black hair now. As we learning, we gain knowledge and wisdom. Wisdom develop what? What color?
White.
Platinum.
So that's why many other system in Asia, they may not show it, they may not tell you, but all the real humble master, they go back, they put on white belt. And I tell you, the reason I'm saying this because when I was, I met one of my go-to, not in my instructor, but I went to train with him, doctor from Burma. Got this old gentleman, like in his 70s, but he got white belt on. And I tell you what, I don't care who it is, because it bring me back memory, because when I was training with him, just an equal, his technique and everything was so perfect and just, and I'm looking, like I said, I'm looking at his white belt. And I said, to myself, I said, I know he's not a white belt. I know he's not a white belt. And then you have guys that come in the tournament, they are high rank, they put on white belt, and they out there competing with white belt. And they know their ability.
They want that gratification of winning.
They want that of winning.
Pat on the back.
That's their thing. And I spot that, and I recognize it. And I say, okay, this guy is done.
Yeah, right.
That's where the
Right.
big word is I. What destroys us most? I, the letter I.
So when at my previous school, we used to take a lot of students down to all the tournaments, and I was the mother hen of everybody, right? I think at one tournament we almost had like 100 people down there.
Surprise.
So we went down there, and we were having all kinds of problems with the tournament. Okay, now just like everybody else, y'all have heard of CJ, right? Okay, and so everybody's so we're having so many problems, and I'm like, okay, I need to find out whoever this CJ dude is, and I need to go talk to him, and I need to have him help me figure this out, right? Me, okay. I am in uniform, and I walk up to him, and I go, and he grabs the chair, turns the chair around, sits down, he goes, what can I help you with? And I just went, okay. So there, it makes a difference. I mean, and that was years ago.
Yeah.
And that's when and every time that I had a problem, I would go to him and ask him, and I got the same responses every time. What can I do? What's going on? Okay.
Service.
Yeah.
Right.
Not gonna help.
So everybody else, and as the arbitrator, he's there for a purpose. Okay. As a coach, I'm not supposed to just go up and talk to him. That's other people's jobs, right? But that ego isn't there. Okay, that wasn't there. I was able to approach him. Okay, I wasn't able, obviously, to approach any of the center judges. I wasn't able to approach anybody else there. I had to find my way over to him and be like, right?
Yeah.
So it matters.
A leaders is great when foot soldiers or personnel can walk up to a superintendent or a boss and easy talking to him like you and me. It make that person go 10 times, go mile with that person.
Right.
Because the ego itself, it will destroy, disrupt. The person will not talk and communicate. Because I remember we built a building for GM plant, and all the GM, big project engineers and owner of GM plant. And here my company saying a lot of foremen and stuff and superintendent, but they cannot communicate. They all get laid off. They get sent away. They couldn't communicate. But yet here I am. The owner placed me in a spot. I have to answer a bunch of those, and that's why I'm saying, when you're working with a person, and if I can make that person feel comfortable and talk to, then I share all to communicate. And I'm able to communicate with them because when that ice broken, that wall is broken. That's why you feel that way. That wall was broken for you. That means my door is open for you.
Right.
And that's when you make that in karate world, when you make that student feel that you can come to me. You have any kind of problem, anything. I am your sensei. I am your friends. I'm here to help. I'm here to inspire. There's time I may be a little hard because I'm in teaching mode, but I also help mowing you. So you got to develop that. And when people breaking down wall of title or sensei or teacher or whatever, you just be surprised how much you open. Even by just sitting and listening, you're letting that person have a shoulder. That's what everybody looking for, is somebody to have a hearing and supporting. And that's what you're doing. When they open up, sit down and listen, he give you full attention. That means he opened up that freedom. And guess what? That feeling that I'm not, it's so easy to communicate. It's so easy. It's humble.
So, just based on what Samuel said, all right, with white hair, I should have wisdom like nobody else. Right? I've got it right there.
So is CJ.
Yeah, so is CJ, right?
I'm bald.
Well, except for hey, he doesn't have hair, so I mean, he's got a lot of wisdom because they all fell out.
All my wisdom's is one spot right here.
Yeah. But kind of going over everything that was said, one of the things that got brought up is all these basically different paths, right? And that we all look at it. You and I in our conversation, we talked about reaching that high mountain, right? There's multiple faces to that mountain. There's multiple angles. There's multiple sides, right? And every single one of us has that path that's going up there. And we all want to get there with each other so we can be at that top. We can look above those clouds, right? Every path is going to be different that gets there. right? As long as we continue to climb, all right, we eventually get to that point where, like Desmond says, okay, hopefully by the time that I die, I've reached that point where I can feel that, all right, I accomplished this. But the other part of that is the whole leadership, and if you've ever read the 21 Fundamentals of Leadership, one of those ones that's on there is that law of the lid, right? And if your leader, okay, especially with ego and things like that, stops here, then that means that all their students come up to here and stop right there, all right? Which means that the next students stop here and then stop here. And pretty much, all right, you've taken this art, this incredible thing, and by the time that it's done, 15 students later, it's down here.
Mhm.
It's no longer this incredible, beautiful thing. You've watered it down, or you've dropped the bar to where they don't have the thing to reach for. One of the things I was taught as a leader, in addition to that, is the simple fact, and I teach it to my students. You and I talked about this already. Was the understanding that as a leader, all right, as an instructor, my job and my whole purpose is to train you and to help you become better than me. So that law of the lid no longer applies. If I can't make it to the top of the mountain, I'm going to help you and push you to the point that you can, so that it continues everything and holds it to a higher level. And with the ego, that won't happen. It'll stop right there. Like I said, it destroys growth, destroys wisdom, it destroys the ability to actually learn.
This was great, and what I love about the conversation that we had is, I think I have a clearer understanding of ego. Right? I think we all came into this on, if not the same page, a similar page, that ego is at least usually harmful. But now I think we've put some things on the table that I don't know about all of you, but I can start to think through even more, and what that means for me as a human being, as a business owner, as a martial artist, and that's great. So I want to thank you all for being here and your egoless willingness to chat on the subject.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.